Hello everyone. This is our final project of International Finance 2018. We are going to talk about the film Let the Bullets Fly. My name is Wayne Liang, and we also have Matt Lee, Sally Huang, and Wei Ting Chen on the team. First of all, let's talk about the film. Let the Bullets Fly is a Chinese film released in 2010. It is an action comedy film written and directed by John Wayne, who is a famous Chinese director. The story is talking about the bandit Zhang Mazi, how he became the mayor of city of Goose, and the conflicts between the richest guy, Master Huang, between Zhang Mazi, and a lot of hilarious and interesting stories happened. And then let's talk about the director. John Wayne is a Chinese film actor, screenwriter, and also director. As a director, he is well known as using lots of metaphor in films, criticizing Chinese politics and social phenomena. In fact, his previous film was prohibited by China government in the name of sending wrong message about Chinese people and wrong history of the war between China and Japan. Next, we are going to talk about the background of the film. The stage of the film is set in the year 1920s, the first decade since the establishment of the Republic of China. China in the 1920s was a new republic confronting great challenges in economics, politics. One of the most devastating was the early 1920s China famine. In the film, you can see a lot of dust in many of the scenes in the film. That's because the region of China was suffering from the severe famine at the time, which affects millions of people in China. The majority of them are farmers and workers. And the fortune at the time was controlled by a few bunch of people, like landlord, military lord, and at the time, China even don't have a central bank. The economic system was controlled by a few private banks and private bankers. The central bank only appears when Chiang Kai-shek take control of the government around 1927, and they use silver dollar system.
The movie background was in 1920s. It seems the metaphor is intended to satirize the corruption of the early year of the ROC and federal system. However, it also points out a lot of PRC ridiculous policy. The whole story is full of interesting and absurd details, which can be considered as the same metaphors. For example, at the beginning of the movie, Mr. Ma takes a train which is pulled by horses as his transportation to the goods city. The imaging of train pulled by horses is funny and absurd. The movie is trying to link the images of the horse and the train is a metaphor referred to maximum and axiom since they are homophonics in Chinese. Zhang intentionally gives Ma such a strange transportation on his way to the power. The ironic meaning of this sentence speaks for itself. Such kind of metaphors are everywhere, but they are all related to the core consideration. The metaphor of revolution. Huang is the old power center of the city, and Zhang wants to end the domination of Huang. At first, Zhang and his brother fight with Huang on their own, and Zhang loses two of his men. At last, Zhang successfully instigated people in the city standing against Huang, and he wins the fights with the power of people. The fight between Zhang and Huang is just like a revolution. The fight against the old power, sacrifice through the fights and the success of people power. Everything exactly the same. However, writing a revolution story is not a hard thing. And the hard thing is how to describe this revolution. Zhang describes the image of the revolutionary Zhang and the old power center Huang carefully. But beyond that, Zhang also has some interesting and ironic description on the most important role in the revolution, people. In the final fight between Zhang and Huang, Zhang and his brother firstly put a lot of money in the square. However, nobody dared to take the money because they are afraid of Huang. The second day, Zhang puts guns in the square. This time people take guns because they are angry with Huang. The third day, Zhang asks people in the city to come with him to fight against Huang, but nobody comes. People are angry with Huang, but they are not sure which side will win, so they choose to wait and see. The fourth day, after Zhang claims that he has caught Huang and cut the fake Huang's head off, people finally choose Zhang's side and help him destroy real Huang. People's reaction about the fight is very interesting. They are afraid of Huang, but they do not have the courage to fight against him even they have weapons. They join the revolution only after one side has already shown the absolute successful. The ironic reaction of people reflects Zhang Wen's rethink about the role of people in revolution. This movie is just like most of Zhang Wen's works. Ingenious, yet pervasive metaphors and not criticized heroism. However, unlike the realistic devil on the doorstep, which cannot be released to the public, and the romantic in the heat of the sun, which has an unperformed box office. This time, Zhang Wen wins the great commercial success. Fortunately, when Zhang Wen amused the audience to cater the markets, he also used the story to tell a profound metaphor about revolution to insist on his pursuing of movie. Just like words Zhang says to Ma, Zhang Wen stands to earn his money. There are also some economics theory in the movie. Information asymmetry between Ma and Zhang, so Ma can play with the Zhang and Huang. Another is the death of 6 men of Zhang's gang is the silent cost of Zhang to occupy Good City, because the 6 men cannot be born anyway. Good City is a monopoly market due to its control by Huang, so there is no surplus for residents who cannot leave the city. Huang is doing rent-seeking by bribe every mayors because he stayed in a monopoly city and he's the main controller. At last, economics policy of Huang is more like centralized planning economics, and other great families are just followed by his rules.
I'm Sally. The movie talks about a lot of rent-seeking activities. The background of the movie is actually around a city called Goose that is controlled by a man called Huang. Although he is not a government official, but he actually controls everything, the money, the market, and also has a power. So what is a rent seeking? When we look up in the internet, the definition of rent seeking is an individual or entity use of resources to obtain economic gain without reciprocating any benefit to society through wealth creation. A good example of rent seeking is when a company lobbies the government for loan subsidies, grants, or tariff protection. So these activities do not actually create any benefit for society, but just merely redistribute resources from the taxpayer to the company itself. So it really a good definition of what Huang has been doing in the movie. He bribes a lot of government officials to create his own wealth and to take the resources from taxpayer into his own pocket.
Hi, I'm Wei Ting. The other perfect example of rent-seeking in this film is the business of being a government. After buying the position and inaugurate, to buy off the local tyrant, let them make the first down payment for the taxes so that the people would believe and follow them. After that, the governor gives the money back to the local tyrant and split the profits. From China case study, the information trustworthiness is one of the key factors. One must closely evaluate the source of information and its credibility to make investment or payment decision. Actually, the whole movie is built on asymmetric information, so that the original government Ma can trick Zhang to the goose town where he doesn't even have the rights to take that position. What he bought was the position in Kang City. And because nobody knows what Zhang Mazi looks like, so Zhang can pretend to be the government in Goose Town, and the Huang can pretend to be the bandit and self-direct the robbery and assassination. Last but not the least, the cost of capital. The cost of capital for most cases is the bottleneck of considering an investment. If the cost of capital is high, then it has to be invested in a higher risk item, which possibly generates higher return, and vice versa. In this case, Ma tricked Zhang to Goose Town instead of Kang City, which the former one is much riskier than the latter. His cost of capital of going to Goose Town is 0. If anything happens to Zhang when fighting local tyrants in Goose Town, he can still go to Kang City afterwards, safe and sound. If Zhang can win this fight, then he can also be benefited too. Either or, the NPV of this strategy would be positive. That will be our analysis to this film, Let the Bullets Fly. This is a very interesting movie worth several times of watching. And thank you very much for your time of listening.